Welcome back, Tributes, to episode 86 of Into the Arena. I'm Holly,
I'm Emily.
and we have an amazing friend and guest here today, Juan, who you may know as Tellez Custom Props on Instagram, social media, everything. Before we dive into our episode, get to know Juan a little bit more. Basic announcements: follow us on Into the Arena podcast wherever you are on social media for updates because we keep saying this, but things like this past Wednesday, where we released the excerpt from chapter one happen, and the whole fandom freaks out. So you want your notifications on for Sunrise coming up. So just turn on those notifications and stay tuned as we get 2 months till Sunrise. I can't believe it, y'all. 2 months. So let's dive in. Let's get to know Juan with some rapid fire questions. Emily,
Okay, you don't know what these questions are, so starting with, what is your favorite Hunger Games book?
My favorite Hunger Games would probably be Catching Fire for the book.
A fan favorite, of
love it.
course. What about favorite movie?
So this one's kind of controversial. I really like Mockingjay because it's the end, and we get a lot of answers to the things that we've built up to over the past few films. And even though it's kind of the saddest story, I think that it's a perfect wrap up to the end of the series. And I think a lot of other young adult films they kind of struggle with ending their movies. It was a good ending, especially with everything they had gone through. So it'd have to be Mockingjay Part 2.
Good
I
answer.
love that answer because that's probably the movie I watched the least
Like
because it
least
hurts the
favorite,
most.
yeah.
So you have a strong heart if you can sit through that movie.
How about your favorite Victor from District 12? We have a few of them now.
I don't know. I feel like that answer might change after Sunrise just because
Hmm.
we know very little of Haymitch's games and what he actually had to go through. So as of right now, I'd say Katniss.
Yeah.
Is that yours, Holly? Mine would be Katniss too, I think,
Yes.
with the potential to be Haymitch.
I think since Ballad it's been Lucy Gray, but like I think it's also PETA. Like we can't forget PETA.
Favorite Hunger Games character overall?
I guess as of right now, I'm not gonna pick Katniss just because she's kind of the go-to person. So if I were to pick somebody aside from her, it would honestly probably be Haymitch at this point because he was her father figure throughout the films and the books. And even though they kind of had their ups and downs, and she really did not like him at parts in Mockingjay because of him leaving PETA in the arena, he was actually kind of there for her as the father figure that she needed in those times, the person she leaned onto and could really trust that he understood her because yeah, their previous experiences in the games. And if I'm not going to pick Katniss, Haymitch.
So then you
Hmm.
are excited for Sunrise. You're extra excited for Sunrise.
Yeah.
Okay, which district are you from?
Not that I've taken any tests or anything, but I just really liked the District 2 color. So I like to claim District 2 as my district just because mainly the color. I liked the red color for the first Hunger Games movie, and there's nothing else really to it other than I liked the arena color and their masonry too. So I liked like the building the weapons and stuff like that. So I guess I kind of best aligned with District 2.
Is that the jacket you're wearing right now?
This jacket that I'm wearing is my custom made District 2 jacket. So I used the template from the one that was released from NECA for the District 12 jacket, and I kind of just traced the patterns from there and transferred it over to new fabric and completely reconstructed it and built it myself. But yeah, this is the jacket I'm wearing, my District 2 jacket.
It's awesome to see like all your props, everything in the background, everything you design is just so cool.
Okay, this is kind of a fun one. What's your favorite of the soundtracks from the movies?
If we're talking about the actual score with like artists and stuff, I would have to pick Catching Fire because
Mhm.
we had Coldplay, Ariana Grande, Sia. There's just a lot of very good artists in that track. But if I'm to pick an instrumental score from James Newton Howard, I think that I would still probably fall with Mockingjay Part 2. It evokes a lot of emotion and it's really intense. And especially the epilogue song, it kind of combines a lot of the tracks that we've heard throughout the four films and puts it into like a 10-minute long score. And I thought that that was really cool. So I'd say Mockingjay Part 2 would be my instrumental. And then for actual artists included in the score, it would be Catching Fire.
Love.
Love that. We need to do an episode where we talk about ballad.
I know. I love the ballad soundtrack.
And last rapid fire question, do you think that Lucy Gray is dead or alive at the end of Ballad?
I think she's alive because Suzanne even says that she's a survivor. The fact that she kind of left it open to interpretation, I actually prefer because then there's more conversation. Is she alive? Is she dead? And it's not like one given definite answer. So, in my personal opinion, I think she's alive.
I think I've moved to the she's alive idea. I still don't know, but I used to think for sure she was dead. She didn't make it, but now I'm like more open.
That's how I am. I feel like we've been on this journey together. Like that's why I love to ask this question too, because we get so many different opinions on it. And I love to hear people's reasoning for it. So could go either way, definitely.
Yeah.
But moving on from rapid fire, let's talk about chapter one of Sunrise on the Reaping. We need to talk about it with you on here. I want to hear what was your initial reaction to the excerpt?
I was actually really surprised because I wasn't expecting to read anything early from this new book. So
Mhm.
when I first read it, I was just kind of in shock how similar Katniss and Haymitch actually are. They have basically almost the same upbringing. So it was a surprise to learn that.
I think my biggest shock was just starting to read it and it being in first person. Still processing that, honestly.
I was so excited by it, and I think I really enjoyed the excerpt because reading it from first person, although I wasn't expecting it and like I don't know how I feel about it, still it gets me excited in a sense that I feel like I'm reading an original Hunger Games book. Like when we read
hmm
Ballad, it definitely was a reading experience, and I had to learn Suzanne's writing style from the third person and learn about like her characters from that perspective. So I think reading it just felt like a Hunger Games book, and that's what I'm so excited about. And there were so many pieces of information that we got. Like you said, it was comparing Katniss to Haymitch. They're like the same person almost, even down to like the little sibling and the single mom who lost the husband in the coal mining incident. Everything is a little parallel to me. So I'm excited to see where their stories differ and how Katniss and Haymitch differ. But yeah, I feel like we got a lot on Wednesday.
I think with all of the similarities, we've talked about this before with Katniss and Haymitch, but I think it is going to really feel like this is what Katniss's life could have been.
I mean, I know what my saddest piece of information was. I mean, everyone, the fact that Haymitch's birthday is on Reaping Day, painful. But what was one piece of information? Because we got a lot of information. What it was something that you both were kind of like surprised to learn, or something that like you took away that you weren't expecting?
For myself, I think you already took that one, which was his birthday being on Reaping Day. That was like the biggest. Oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense why he's always drunk on that day.
It's so
of, of
sad.
all of
Like,
all of all days too. And aside from that, was just for me learning his father also passed away in a mining incident because that for me was like the click that hey, Katniss's father passed away in a mining incident too, and then the other connections, the younger sibling, the mother who has to support them, and they just have the same family structure. Haymitch's father passing away in the accident was the biggest surprise to me.
You know what got me after the fact? I didn't really even connect this myself. Sid, his little brother, who's 10 years old, there's a reference to him being a rooster, and then comparing that to the little duck in the trilogy. Mm, mm, that got me good.
that hurt.
I just
That
know
hurt.
that this is going to emotionally destroy us.
Oh, I feel like the internet, like the Hunger Games internet just broke because everyone was just like all these pieces of information. And we only got like a little excerpt. So I'm excited
It's
to see
720 words. So we got all that from 720 words.
where do you guys expect to rank this book in terms of, is it gonna be your favorite? Because like honestly, I think this book is gonna be my favorite. I'm always the optimist though, so
I don't think that anything will beat the Hunger Games. For me, it's the first. I can't, nothing can beat it. Like, it just changed everything, the start of everything. But I could definitely see it being my second favorite.
I kind of always like those little teasers we're given. So, like when we're reading Catching Fire, we're told that Katniss and Peter were watching Haymitch's games, and we're only shown like that small section of it. So, since we have always kind of like as a fandom, like, oh, I've always wished that we could see Haymitch's games, Finnick's games, Johanna's games. That was actually exciting to hear because I like to learn new information about this world, and I think it'll be groundbreaking with like the world building and expanding Panem. Maybe I'm just being biased because it's new and it's exciting to have something to look forward to. I feel it may be my favorite book and film.
I'm so excited for Sunrise. I'm also really excited to have you part of like this journey because like I mean you've been a Hunger Games fan, but now you're like active in the community and it's so great to like have someone so creative and awesome. So I feel like now it's time to talk about you and all your props and let's just get to know you and your Hunger Games story. Like how did you first come across the books and the movies and how did you start engaging in the fandom?
I remember back from like way back in, I think fall of 2011 was when the first teaser trailer was dropped for the first Hunger Games. And all my sisters were in the kitchen watching the trailer on my mom's little iPhone. And I was just kind of curious, so I kind of watched over their shoulder to see what it was about. And they had said that it was a popular book series that was getting turned into a film. So when the movie dropped in March, I actually wasn't allowed to go and watch it because they said it was too violent, and I was only 11 at the time. I was first introduced to it when I was able to watch it for the first time back at home. When DirecTV would do like the theater releases, you rent it for like $5. So
Yes.
I watched it for the first time at home, and from that point on, I was hooked. The futuristic style of like the weapons, the arena, and just kind of the idea of it being like a future version of like Gladiator inside the Coliseum. It really intrigued me, and just me being a young kid, I was into a lot of like the violent video games and stories and movies. The action and all that kind of piqued my interest, and from there, I just kind of started reading the books before the next movie would be released. So that way, when there was kind of gaps in between the films, it gave me something to do. Like I didn't want the story to end, so I'd purposely not read the next books up until the next movie would be released.
That's hard.
We
I'm
just
like
can't
sat
comprehend
down and I read those books in like back to back to back. I
that
just
level of self-control. Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy.
We don't
Good for
have it.
you. And how did you feel when the story was announced, like Ballad was announced?
Well, I know how a lot of people kind of started rumors of, oh, Suzanne's making another book, and I just kind of ignored it at first and didn't believe it until it was actually published. Like, hey, this is the story, it's the name. And I told all my friends and family about it, and they were like, "Oh, cool," because they're not into it as much as me. So I guess you could say they didn't really have the same hype for it. I kind of started to explore more on like Instagram and stuff that the rest of the community was kind of coming back and still alive. I was really excited and happy. And I think that was the fastest I ever read a book once I got it.
That time you didn't waste any time with Ballad. You're like, we're reading
Yeah.
this. Can you share a
Ever.
little bit about your Ballad premiere experience?
So my sister has a friend who had worked in the film industry, and she had kind of given me a heads up that the premiere was going to be happening. So initially I wasn't even going to go because I had no knowledge of what to do out there. I'd never been to a Hollywood premiere, ever tried to get in one. So there was just a lot of doubt of like, what if I waste my time? What if I get lost? But the last minute, my brother and I decided to go. So I woke up at 5 a.m. the morning of the premiere. I was on the barricade by 7 a.m. and I was the first person there. There was no other fans lined up, and I was kind of surprised. I'm like, this is the Hunger Games. Why isn't there anybody here? After that, these two girls kind of walked by, and I noticed their cardigans were the Ballad cardigans, and it was actually Justine, who's Miss Katniss Millark on Instagram, and Daniela, she's Catnip the Spark. And from that point, we kind of just clicked and stuck together and held our spot on the barricade. The crowd was starting to grow. The premiere was basically all set up that Lionsgate security was kind of like pointing at us and talking amongst themselves. And we noticed that and we were all freaking out, like, oh, like they're pointing at us. Getty Images had just come by taking a photo of us, and they walked up to us and asked if we had tickets for the premiere. And we said no. And it was a group of six of us at that by that time. And they asked us if we wanted to go into the premiere, and we just lit up. It was honestly so crazy. We weren't expecting it. We were hoping to just see it from across the street and hope
Yeah.
to see some actors. And they walked us through security, put these golden wristbands on us, and the corner of the barricade where we ended up standing on the carpet, we just kind of cooped up in that corner, and the premiere went on. Didn't know that there was other people with fan accounts because I was off Instagram for a long time. After I started to follow all of you, I was like, oh, hey, I saw her at the premiere. Hey, I saw him. So it was really cool thinking like, wow, we were all in that same spot together, and I had no idea who any of you were, and now we're all friends. So it was just the best night. I got everything and more than I expected. And I wasn't expecting anything at all. So it was a full circle moment and something that I'm really happy to kind of reminisce on and talk about when I share it with other people. It was probably the best night of my life, I could tell you.
Yeah, I get that feeling.
I feel
I
that.
get that feeling too.
I just love that your efforts, that you just like went out on a limb and went to the premiere and it all worked out, the way it was supposed to. Super cool story.
I live in this small town called Blythe, and it's the border from Arizona and California.
Mm.
So for me, I'm like, you know what? I'm an adult now. I've got my own money. I've got my own car. I'm gonna go. And even if I don't get anything out of it, I can say I tried. The fact that I was so close to not even going is crazy to me because I don't know where I would see myself right now because now I have a good community of friends that all have the same interests as me. They all like the Hunger Games. I'm able to finally share this stuff that I haven't showed anybody ever on a platform where people appreciate it, and it's nice because for the longest time I never recorded videos of my prop building. I never shared any of like the cosplays that I would do, and now that I have that time to do it, it's gratifying, I guess you can say.
And I think it's so cool and so meaningful that you made the Golden Alliance. So, can you explain to those who don't know what exactly is the Golden Alliance? I think it's such a cool story.
The Golden Alliance is a shared Hunger Games fan account, and it consists of Miss Katniss Malark, Catnip the Spark, and myself, Tellez Custom Props on Instagram. And the three of us met at the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes premiere in LA, and we decided to form an alliance. And after some thinking, we kind of came up with the name, the Golden Alliance. And the inspiration from that name is actually drawn from the scene in Catching Fire where Effie is talking to Peeta, Haymitch, and Katniss as they're going to the Quarter Quell, and she tells them that she wants to show them that they're a team and gift them something of gold. So Katniss has her Mockingjay pin, Effie has her hair, Peeta gets his golden medallion, and then Haymitch gets the golden bangle. This kind of connects to it. Last year, I won a video and autographed Barbie from Elizabeth Banks. In the custom video, she gave us a shout out of the Golden Alliance, and to me, that was my gift of gold back to them, which was showing that we
Oh,
were a team. And that video kind of, I guess you can
I love
say,
you guys. You guys are so
it
cute.
unified us. Yeah.
Oh, that is so like I just love hearing like the friendships that are made from this community and the fact that like you went there not knowing like what was in store for you and you walked away with like two best friends, a community full of people. Like we're so lucky to have you in this fandom. So if you're not following Golden Alliance, go follow Golden Alliance.
Yeah, because you guys have been going like live and just like engaging a lot with the fandom. I just love to see it. It's so cool.
And the community really appreciates you guys for doing that. Way to keep the fandom interactive, and it's awesome to have you guys a part of the community.
We really appreciate everybody's interactions with our page. It's really surprised me. We're really thankful for that.
There's like a niche and a space for everyone in a fandom. It's so cool in like one fandom how you can have everybody doing their own little things and bringing something different. So, moving into, I guess, props and prop replicas, how did you get into that for the Hunger Games? Is that something you did for like a fandom before, or did it start with the Hunger Games? And like, what was the first thing that you created?
So at home, my dad has a workshop where I have access to a lot of tools and different types of machines, so where I can actually go in and be creative and experiment with stuff. And it first started because I'm a really big fan of The Legend of Zelda. It's a video game. And so for Halloween one year, I made my own sword, made my own little shield, and that's where it started and into my little prop building. And from there, after I watched the Hunger Games, I was like, hey, I kind of know how to build stuff now. I'm gonna try building those bows and arrows. I'm gonna try making those jackets and those backpacks. And the first thing I ever built from the Hunger Games was her silver arena bow. So I made it out of wood. I had no knowledge of how to construct a bow. I just cut it straight out of wood, and when I tried to shoot it, it snapped. And so I was real heartbroken, and I didn't really understand how to properly make one. So I turned to YouTube, and from YouTube, I was able to learn how to build bows, learn different tricks, and just kind of hone in on my skills. And over the years, I've gotten better, and it was really through trial and error and making all those mistakes that I was able to, what I'd like to say is kind of perfect my craft. I'm at a point to where I'm happy with the products that I'm producing, and it really just comes down to nobody else was selling or making any of these things that I wanted. So right now I'm really happy at the part that I am with my process and being where I can finally say that I'm proud of this, proud of the thing that I've created. Because looking back on like my older pieces, to me I think that they're pretty ugly now. But my 13-year-old self thinks those were amazing. So I've actually
Yeah.
kept some of them, and I kind of wanted to show you. So
Yeah.
Oh,
here's
fun.
here's my first little Mockingjay quiver that I made when I was about 15 years old.
Okay, this is the Mockingjay part one, part two.
Yeah, the Mockingjay, the one that's attached to the actual Mockingjay suit. So I made this when I was about 15. It doesn't have the best detail on it. The arrows are all
Yeah,
not the
totally.
proper length.
Yeah,
And this
I'm
is
like,
my
what's wrong with it?
Yeah, no. Totally
and
agree with you.
this is my newest one that I just built. The arrows are the proper length and color. They have the color coded, and it's more of like a metallic paint. Though just the way I've cleaned up my work, I'm able to like attach the straps. It's got a carbon fiber backing, the black Mockingjay pin on the front, and another cool thing too is I installed magnets at the base of it, so you can tip the arrows upside down and they don't all come falling out. So if you wanted to
So cool.
cosplay or go walking around and take pictures, maybe take a jog and record a video while you're in action, your arrows all stay secured in place and they don't all come falling out. My planning with it, the way I've designed them, they're a little better than when I was 15. So I'm happy that I kept a lot of my old stuff so that way I can kind of compare how far I've come.
How old were you specifically when you made your first prop?
The Legend of Zelda, I was probably about 10.
That's crazy.
For the Hunger Games, I was about probably 11 or 12 when I made my first bow. And then really just over time, I've revisited a lot of the old projects that I had done prior. And now that I'm recording my process, making videos, posting them to Instagram and creating content, for me, when I was a kid, I would have appreciated to see a video on how you make the arena backpack, how you make the 74th Games arrows, the Catching Fire, Mockingjay, how you just make anything Hunger Games. Like there really isn't a lot of people that show the process of how they build that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make that my page. I think that this fandom is missing that part where you show how you build props and how you make them functional or just look good for cosplay, really. And that's kind of been my thing is I like to take on those projects and replicate these things because it really is what I enjoy the most. If I could have like a career choice, I would like to be in like the costume and prop department.
So cool that you even like are thinking down to the details of, okay, what is the use case for why someone would purchase this, like to take pictures or to display it. So, like you were saying, like the arrows are in there so that they don't move around, things that I would never think of. Or maybe someone who's just starting out and wants to make things, hearing how your process goes and getting better at it.
I actually have some of my arrows all set up. If you'd like to take a look at each of them, I can just kind of show them to you all.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah, let's do it.
So this one is the 74th Games Arena arrow.
Wow.
So the way I built them was it's kind of the most annoying process out of all the arrows because this arrow is completely handmade. So I have to file out the knock right here where it would clip to the string. These feathers are actually made out of heavy duty Scotch packaging tape and aluminum tinfoil strips. And then there's a wire that goes down the center of it. And I cut a groove onto the arrow shaft and it's secured by the tubes at the top and the bottom. And then here's the screen accurate broadhead.
Wow.
So cool. I love the first movie, Arrows and Quiver. I think that's my favorite.
I would say the same just because it's the one that started it all. It's the most nostalgic. And when you think of the Hunger Games, you think of the first movie.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this is what the aesthetic's gonna be.
This one right here is the Catching Fire arrow.
Oh,
It's actually an Easton X7 Eclipse arrow. That's the base arrow. But I have to completely attach the feathers, the nocks, and then here's the broadhead that she uses to shoot out the dome. So I was also thinking of like making like singular wall displays in case somebody wanted to just have like an arrow to display on their wall, like, oh, this is the one that she used to shoot down the dome. And I was also looking into like LED wires, so that way you can light up the wire wrapped around the tip and it looks like lightning, and then it's
What?
Wow.
secured from the back, and then that way you'd have like a displayable light up arrow that looks like there's lightning running through it. But it's just an idea right now. I haven't been able to actually bring it to life yet. One of the future projects I'd like to work on eventually.
Do you have like a process for creating prop replicas, or how does that work?
The first thing that I do is I'll do like an extensive amount of research on the internet. I'll look up photos from behind the scenes, videos, and I think that the best thing that I found was the online auction pamphlets because they actually do go into detail with the specifications, how long an arrow is, how wide the quiver is. So the 74th game's quiver, it's 4 inches wide from the back and 20 inches tall. So that was a lot of help to help me get the dimensions and make it accurate and correct to replicate them for my own use. I'll do research on the photos, get an idea of how it's going to be built, and then from there I'll buy all my materials, make sure that they match the quality that I want because I want them to last. I don't want them to just like look good in a photo. And if you really wanted to use it, you could. From there, I would just kind of draft my templates for everything. I'd get construction paper, measure, draw everything out, get all my pieces lined up, and then really just work from the hardest thing to the easiest and go backwards from there so that way the project is easier as I go along. Because if I can knock out the hard stuff first and the busy work, then it just makes my life a whole lot easier. The 74th games arrows, the first thing that I did was I cut all the tubing, I polished all of them, set those to the side, and then I made all the feathers, set those to the side. I pre-cut the arrows to the correct length. So that way, whenever I kind of wanted to complete my project, I wasn't having to stop, go back, revisit the same step. All of my steps were completed, so that way I kind of had an assembly line. Yeah, that's kind of the process that goes into it. And I also have been trying to record it all too because I was very impatient in the beginning when I first started building props. And I'm like, oh, I don't have time to set up a camera and record because then you have to change the angles and edit a video. I just want to get it done. So recently, what I've been doing is since I make multiple backpacks, multiple arrows, I will build all of them first except for one. And on that last one, I'll record it because I already have the process down in my head. I don't have to think about what the next step is. I kind of already know it because I've done it a numerous amount of times. And I'll record that last piece so that way I'm able to get it almost perfect for my video, for my photos in the end. Yeah, that's kind of the process of building my props.
I feel
Wow.
like I'm just getting life tips right now. Or like productivity. Start with the hardest part first. Like that makes so much sense.
Yeah. What was like the longest a project has taken you?
I'd say the longest and most difficult project was my arena backpacks because they have very little photos on the actual specifications, all the little pockets she has on the backside of it because she has a knife that goes behind her right side, and so there's a pouch for that. And I wish I had one of the original ones that was not already constructed into the Hunger Games, so you can see like the side by side of this is how it looked before and this is how it looked after. So I actually do have one right here that I can show you. So this one was probably my hardest project to complete because there's a lot of stuff that you have to sew together and things that you have to remember too, because I completely gutted the backpack, swapped out all the old fabrics, and in the beginning it was just a bunch of scrap materials, and then I had to put it all back together and make it fit. So I'd say this was the hardest thing to replicate. And if you look, it's got the expansion pack on the sides. So the backpack's kind of collapsible. You can expand it or you can contract it, make it a little smaller, more compact. And right here, I've actually sewn the knife pouch. So that way you could put a little knife right there. And there's a Velcro strap. That way you can secure the knife and it doesn't come falling out. I had to think about all the little things that they did to make their prop for the film and also make it so that way you could display the quiver and arrows on it, make sure they all pieced together correctly. So I'd say my arena backpacks were the hardest thing for me to replicate.
What is like your fastest project?
My fastest one would honestly, it would probably be like my Mockingjay and catching fire arrows because you can buy the shaft, you can pay for them to be custom cut to the correct length. In terms of like saving time, these type of arrows take the least amount. Since these ones were entirely custom for both the films and my own personal collection, these ones were probably the hardest to make. You can't buy these broadheads anywhere. These ones are just entirely custom, so it's the hardest one to replicate and it takes the most time.
It's so cool. I want one.
I'm sure like every Hunger Games fan is just like staring at your stuff like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I love the idea of having like a display of like just one of the arrows like you were talking about. That sounds so cool.
I'll show you these ones too because they happen to be some of my favorite as well, which is her Mockingjay arrows.
With the three colors, yeah.
You got your regular, incendiary, and your explosive arrows.
Okay, Beatty.
And then here's the broadheads. So here's the regular broadhead. It's just kind of a more simplistic look. This is the arrow that she used to shoot President Coin.
Dun, dun, dun.
Here's the incendiary, the explosive arrows. No, these are the fire arrows. And then these ones are probably my favorite just because I like the way they look. Her explosive arrows. And actually, if you press down on the tip, they open up.
Whoa.
That's
Wow.
so cool. It's kind of like Phoenix Trident.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's I think they took the design of this broadhead for her explosive arrows and they turned it into Phoenix Trident because you press down on the top and then
Wow.
the sides open.
That's such a cool little detail.
And then you just pull it up. The way I was able to go back and find all the correct broadheads was through the auction pamphlets. They released one for the World of the Hunger Games when the films wrapped up, and they had all these close-up photos. So I used, I think it was Google Photos to pull the image, drop it into the box, and then it pulled up all the similar ones. And from there, I was able to find the correct brands of the buckles that they would use, the broadheads, the arrows, like all the parts that you would need to put these pieces together yourself. I was able to find it through those auction pamphlets and just yeah, the specifications. Those were like they were like gold to me because all the things that I had questions about were answered within those books. So
Yeah.
I refer to them a lot to making my own props.
Yeah, it's definitely like putting together a puzzle. Like I feel like you're putting together all these pieces and filling in all these gaps in your head.
All this knowledge too about
Yeah.
the props because you've gone through the process of trying to replicate them yourself.
It kind of amazes me too at times when I was like a kid because looking back, I'm like, how did I draw that when I was only 14? Because I mean at the time you like people always tell you like, "Oh, this is good." And you always have those doubts of like, "Ah, it's not the best it could be." But I think at the time, looking back at my younger self, I'm proud of what I was able to accomplish with the tools that I had in front of me. I still have the same tools pretty much. I haven't really gotten anything else that's new, but I've learned how to use them differently to make my projects a little bit more cleaner. And it really just comes down to my planning. If I have a good plan and a good process that I think that I can follow, then it'll create a good product.
Is there like a prop that you have dreams of creating that you haven't made yet?
My favorite bow and arrow set from the entire series is the first Hunger Games, the 74th Hunger Games arena bow. And I have not found a way to replicate it so that it's functional. The ones that I have, some of them were based off of a original bow that I transported a new handle to, but it doesn't have the exact shape I want. It doesn't have the proper draw weight because I don't want mine to be so strong that you go hunting with it or target practice, but I want it to be enough so that way you can pull it back and shoot a little arrow. I kind of want to give people the same tools that they would need to make their own little shorts, their little short videos, their little TikTok videos. I want to make a functional 74th Games arena bow. I haven't been able to make it yet, but there's a lot that goes into building bows, but there's a lot of steps and it's also very dangerous too because if you build it incorrectly, it could snap and shoot right back at you. And there's a lot of things that you have to think about and plan because I don't want to get anybody to get hurt. I don't want to get hurt. So
Mhm.
I think that's what I've been exploring more recently is learning how to make real bows because a lot of these ones I have now, this is Katniss's Mockingjay bow. So for the films, they had a bow already that was pre-made, and what I did was I just bought the same model bow and I painted the correct designs onto it. So this is actually like a color shifting paint. So if you look at it in different lighting, it looks purple, it looks a little
Mm.
bit blue.
Yeah.
It has those Mockingjay tones to it. It's already a real bow, and all I really did was modify it. I did a custom paint job on it, and I turned it into the Mockingjay bow that we see in the films. This one's my favorite because I can actually use it. It's a real bow. So this is
Wow.
Katniss's Catching Fire bow. I even customized some front covers. So here's like all the hardware and stuff.
Hmm.
And these are the little components that I used. And I built a little magnet and glued it to the back. So that way when you put it on the front, it clips in place. This is mainly just for photos. If I was to actually shoot it, I would take this part off because it doesn't really serve a purpose other than the look. So yeah, I'm trying to find a way how to actually make the 74th Games bow. I haven't found a way to do it and make it affordable because it's really expensive to like buy all the parts needed to create a project. So I have to plan it all out and see how I can do it and make it affordable too. Like this bow right here, this one's only seen in one shot in Catching Fire, where Katniss is going to show Mags how to shoot a bow in the training center. You only see this bow once hanging on the bow rack, but it's separated into three parts. It's the handle, which you call the riser, and then these parts you would call the limbs. And if I was to take the string off, you can take the limbs off and the handle, and it's deconstructed into three parts. So it's what you would call a takedown bow. So when I do display my bows, I display them unstrung because a lot of the bows that I have on display from the Hunger Games films are functional. I could actually use them and go shoot. As of right now, I don't actually have a screen used bow from the set. All of mine are just replicas, and
Hmm.
I've been able to find the correct brands and models and just modify them to match the look of the film, but they're not the actual ones from the film like I would like to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those have got to be some of the most valuable props from the films, right? So that makes sense.
I think I saw her Mockingjay bow was sold for like $50,000.
Just have that in my back pocket, no big deal. So, I guess tell us a little bit more about your movie prop collection and like your favorite pieces that you have.
The first thing that I ever collected from the Hunger Games that was actually from the film sets was, I think it's like a tannish, grayish color. It's the medic jackets from Mockingjay Part 2. I found it
Right.
on eBay for about $200, so I bought it and I would wear it all the time. I mean, the way I thought of it was at the time when I was a kid, what good is it if I don't get to enjoy to wear it? Like I can wear it
Hmm.
and say, oh, like this is from the Hunger Games movie, and I felt really cool being 14, 15 years old, being able to say, hey, this jacket's from the actual Hunger Games movie. So that was the first thing that I had ever bought. And just over the years, I would find more things on eBay, and it really wasn't until I got a job, became an adult, and was able
Oh.
to have my own money that all hell broke loose. And I just started buying everything and anything that I saw that was Hunger Games. And I'm like, the way I felt was I was making my younger self happy, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Mm,
Because I had always dreamed of owning a prop from the film, owning a costume from the film, but I never really saw it as, or never really saw it as something that was attainable. I'm like, oh yeah, it's
Hmm.
only lucky people are able to have those. So I found out about some online auctions, and it was actually Brian from Panam Archives who kind of told me about it. And it was Finnick's costume that I got first. He was the first costume that I ever got from the film that was actually from one of the main actors. I couldn't let it go. I was like, you know what? I've made my own money to where I can get these things now. I'm gonna try to like own something, and from there it just kind of grew. I eventually found Foxface's arena costume on eBay. This one is actually what you would call the hero costume because she wears Jacqueline Emerson. She wears this during the bloodbath scene in the first Hunger Games. And when I got the boots and everything from the set, there was still mud at the bottom of the boots. The jackets had a little bit of dirt on them. The pants were dirty. And I think that it was also the same costume that she was wearing when she runs into well, those are stunt doubles, but when she runs into Jennifer Lawrence and they cross paths while
Hmm.
they're fleeing the bloodbath. So this one was probably like my favorite thing to get because it's nostalgic. It's from the first Hunger Games, and not only that, it's
Hmm.
from the arena. It's one of the tributes, the main tributes, and it was just really exciting to find And the same guy that was actually selling this one also had her training center costume. So now I have her training center costume and her arena costume. And I had taken photos at one point on my Instagram, had them displayed together. Took them out to the forest here in my town and set them up so it had a Hunger Games feeling environment. And so yeah, this I'd say this one is probably my favorite costume because it's from the first film. And then I just recently got this Catching Fire arena wetsuit right here, and it was labeled as a male wetsuit, but it was small enough to where it fit on the female mannequin. So I was like, I'm just gonna display it as a Katniss mannequin because it's so small. And the only thing that it was missing was the knee pads and the boots, which I customized myself. I found the same brand boots, the same brand knee pads. I cut them, I took them apart and reconstructed them to match the look of the film. And then the arrows that are displayed on the Catching Fire mannequin are arrows that I made, and the quiver that I made, and the belt that I made. So I'm able to have a fox face display, a Katniss Catching Fire display, and then a Finnick Mockingjay display in the background.
Yeah, it's so cool that you're able to get props and then add to it and elevate it because of the skills that you have.
I totally just like relate to the whole being young at the time when the first books came out. And like I was 11 when I first read the books too, so I'm assuming we're about the same age. But like just the fact that younger self, like my mom would give me like allowance and I would take my little $20 bill and I would go to Hot Topic and I would buy the whatever was at Hot Topic. And like that's how I feel now. It's so exciting that we're fans and we're adults now and like we have adult jobs and blah 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 blah. And it's so I understand completely you saying like you're paying back your younger self. I think that's just so real and I totally relate to that.
If only
Yeah,
we'd been a little bit older when those first auctions happened.
God.
that's what breaks my heart too, is looking
Yeah.
back at the Black Sparrow auctions. Like
I know.
you had main actors like the District 1 and 2 tributes and all the other ones. They all their arena costumes, the full set, the jacket, pants, like everything, they sold for less than $1,000 a piece. Like some of them for $300. And I was like, dang, why wasn't I working at McDonald's at 10 years old? So I could have a job and afford the cost of those auctions. But like the Fox Face costume right here, it's only had one previous owner. So this one came from the Black Sparrow auction to the owner who was living in the United Kingdom at the time. And from there, it came to me. So now I'm the second owner. And when I first got the fox face costume, I said, hey, this jacket's small enough. I went to my little sister who does a lot of the modeling on my page and the cosplay. And I said, hey, try this on. Like, I want to see if it fits. So she took a picture and I sent it to the person that sold it to me. And he said, she's the first person to wear that jacket since filming's wrapped up in 2011. And
Wow.
so I was thinking that was a pretty cool thing to talk about. My little sister, her name's Clementina, but we call her Cece. I said, you're the first person to wear that jacket since the actress last wore it on the film.
That's so
So
surreal.
cool. I love that you were talking about like the mud on the boots. I have not as cool, but a pair of shoes that Elizabeth Banks wore as an alternate pair during the reaping. So when she was like standing on the top of the Justice Building stage, and on the bottom of the shoes, there's like a gray kind of material on the bottom of that. So it's whatever they like surface the Justice Building with. It's like remnants of that are on the bottom of the shoes, which I think is so cool.
No, that is cool. You should like, I mean, I don't know how you have them displayed, but I would definitely like if I were you, I'd buy a whole little shadow box for it with a little light and a little plaque and stuff
That's
just
what
to
I need
display.
because I had them on my, they're just in the box now, but I had them on my shelf. But because they have that like residue on the bottom, I didn't want to like set them on like a shelf because I didn't want that to go away.
Like,
So,
what would be like a cool way to display it too is if you had like a mirror base, set the shoes on top of the
Mm.
mirror base. That
oh
way
my
you can,
gosh, put it underneath so you can
yeah,
see like the
yeah,
bottom of the shoes.
exactly. Yeah. Maybe I can help you with that someday. Help you go to Stanford. That would be so
Oh
cool and then
yeah,
send
that
it
would
to
be
me.
cool. I have a picture of Elizabeth Banks on the set that she also autographed that I found, but it's her wearing those shoes, which I think is so cool. I
Yeah.
just have small things, like nothing as cool as your costumes.
Oh no, I know, like, but I feel I've just been lucky because there's been plenty of times where I've like lost out on the auctions. Like for example, I was bidding on like an entirely full Catching Fire arena wetsuit. It had the suit, the knee pads, the boots. It was actually a Cedar from District 11. It was her arena wetsuit. And I was bidding on it and I lost. And I mean, I thought that it sucked, but as the months went on, that's how I was able to find Fox faces because if I had spent the money on Cedar's arena outfit, I wouldn't have had the money to buy Fox faces. So the way I would just kind of, for me, when I would think about it was, uh, if it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be, and I'm sure that something greater will eventually come along. And for my case, that's just what happened, and I was very lucky, I would say because although I was sad that I missed out on those previous auctions, and even the one that was they had Kato's Chariot outfit, Peta's Training Center outfit. There was a recent auction a little less than a year ago. I did not get any of those, but because I missed out on that, I was able to get the Catching Fire wetsuit. So, and this was something that I wanted more than any of the other pieces in that set. I think that if it's meant to be, it'll happen.
So, I guess to wrap things up, what can we expect to see next from you?
So, kind of like I had mentioned earlier, I do want to eventually make some more arena bows that are functional. And one that I'm actually currently working on right now is making a male and female version of the 74th Games arena jackets. So, I had only ever made the ones that I'm wearing right now, which is in my size, but I'd like to revisit that project and make them in different sizes. It's just, like I had said, the planning is the most important part because if I have like the right templates and everything fits together correctly, then I know I can make the project happen. But if there's something that's a little off and I have to tweak it here and there, I have to make those mistakes in the beginning before I visit them later on while I'm already in the process. Yeah, some 74th Arena jackets, custom made. I'm going to try to make different sizes and different colors. So that's my biggest project that I'm setting up for right now.
So
Cool. I
exciting.
would love a District 4 jacket or District 10.
Let's put
You,
our orders in.
the District 4 jacket's actually the first color I was going to make.
I feel like that's probably one of the most popular in addition to Katniss.
The hardest part right now that I was finding was just finding the right blue. I'm like, it's like a blue, but it's like a green, and I want to find like the right balance of both because it's supposed to be the fishing district. So I think I'm going to lean more blue because it's fishing and water and stuff like that. So I think that's where I'm kind of heading towards for that color for that jacket.
I fully trust whatever choices that you'd be making after all the research that you clearly do.
For me, and it's kind of a pain sometimes, I don't settle for like, oh, this is close enough. Like I will spend hours and hours trying to find the exact color, the exact size, everything, because I want to make it exactly like the film. I don't want something close to it. I want to make it as though it was from the set. And so that's something that I struggle with, which is sometimes accepting you can't always find the things that you're looking for, but I don't take that answer. I will like spend most of my day finding the right parts for it.
It's a replica, damn it. It's a
Yeah.
replica.
I'm
Like
like,
you're already doing all that work too, so you don't want to just get close enough. You want it to be right.
I also have some like little stuff that I've collected too that are only the OG fans would really recognize and notice if you want me to like kind of show those off before we wrap it up too.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
definitely.
So this one was probably the hardest thing to find, which is Katniss's little silver water bottle.
I
So
love that.
Yes.
the brand, it's called Sig, and it's a vintage flask water bottle. But I was surprised to see that it was actually like an oval shape and it's not round. Her match case from the 74th games,
Ooh, that's cool.
Wow.
probably my favorite. I found the same brand rope that she used for the films
Whoa.
too. I'm not gonna gatekeep. I like to share all like the knowledge and the names. So this is
Yeah.
actually called Petzl, Petzl Petzl rope, and the name of it was Nomad Petzl rope, I believe. I randomly found it on eBay. I wasn't even looking for it at the time, and I came across it, and my brain is so like wired to recognize like this is from the Hunger Games that I immediately saw it and bought it because I just knew that it was the same. And then there's actually a guy that I know who owns her original rope. And I've also just seen like photos online and I was able to screen match it. And I'm like, this is literally the same brand rope. It just wasn't used in the film.
You hold up that rope and I'm like, oh, it's like
Yeah.
visceral.
See, like,
Dun,
like
dun,
you
dun.
get it. Yeah. And then
That's crazy.
here's some other like little things I've collected too. I've got one of the bunker lights from Mockingjay Part 1
I
during
need one of
the.
those.
These are medic boots from, I want to say they were used in the rebel bombing. So here's some medic boots from Mockingjay Part 2. Here is, these are size 10 male District 13 assault rebel boots. And then I'll show you this too. This is autographed by Elizabeth Banks.
Oh,
Yes.
love
Oh,
So
so
that.
sweet.
it's kind of hard to see the lettering on it, but she wrote, Juan, thank you for being a fan. Love to you.
Oh,
Heart, Elizabeth Banks, aka Effie.
I
That's
love that it's
awesome.
personalized.
December was a really good month for me last year because I had won that video message from her. She personalized it to my friends and I. I received that in the mail. And then I got an email from Hunger Games books asking if I wanted to be a game maker with Sunrise on the Reaping. So it was just, it's just to think that not even a whole year since I had my account, I started my page, I started sharing my content, made all of these great friends that I had actually seen before at the premiere, just didn't know who you were. And now we're all kind of working together in a group. So I feel like it's been a really good year for me, I would say. And
Good.
I'm really grateful, and I'm excited to see where Sunrise takes us because I mean, who knows? Will this be the last Hunger Games book and film, or is she gonna surprise us because she always writes when she has something to say, not because she wants to just make money. I really do appreciate that they haven't turned the Hunger Games into like a cash grab. Like there's always a
Mhm.
message being sent with the films and the books.
You are so talented. There's a spot for you in this fandom, and we're just so excited to have you and especially like be on an episode because to like focus on props and all the stuff that you've collected from the films itself, just so cool. And so we're so grateful to have had you on this episode and thank you so much for sharing and like not gatekeeping because that's
Yeah.
what I love about this fandom is we don't gatekeep. We like to share.
Thank you for having me. It's like it feels so strange because, but in a good way. It feels strange because I remember first finding out about your podcast, and I had binge watched all the episodes, and I was like, oh,
Oh.
here's Brian. And the fun thing about Brian is I had been, I wouldn't say friends because we were kind of strangers to each other at the time, but I had known of Brian. He actually bought one of my arena backpacks, the arrows and the bow. So he had all that stuff on display, and I had no idea that it was even posted because I didn't have Instagram. And so when
Mhm.
I became friends with him again, I saw him at the premiere, and I was like, "You're the guy that bought my stuff." I was like I was freaking out. I was fanning out over Brian because I knew him from Instagram, but I had no idea that he was going to be there, and it was just really cool to see like one of the people that supported me earlier on with my prop stuff. And so I was real happy to see him and take a picture with him and just really making all these friends and kind of being part of the group is it's really just an honor to me. I was not expecting it at all. I was just kind of happy to post my little videos, and now that we're all in this together, it's really cool.
I
I
know.
think there's a lot of people who are they're so hesitant, to get involved or to put themselves out there and, create a page. And it's like, there's no better time than now, right? Like it's never too late. The fandom is here, the fandom will always be here, and it just shows like so many cool things can happen. You never know what can happen from just
Mhm.
pursuing what you love, and sharing that with people.
That's really what all of this has been about too, was I make these things and I do it because it's what makes me happy. It's what I enjoy. I like to keep myself busy. I'm a very hands-on person. Like if somebody's like trying to teach me something and they're just telling me how to do it, I'm a very visual learner. Like if I get to watch you how you do your process, that helps me learn. And I guess like my main thing for my channel is I want to be that person that shows people how to make stuff because I wanted somebody to do that for me when I was a kid. So if I had somebody to look to when I was younger on how to build these Hunger Games backpacks, these arrows, then I think that would have helped me a lot early on. So just being able to kind of share that now, and like if people ever like message me like, "Hey, how did you do this?" Like I'll send them my video because they can see it and all the steps that it took rather than just trying to explain it all, you know? So
Mhm.
that's been the most rewarding thing is just being able to kind of help people see all the work that goes into making something.
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you so much. And seriously, we're going to link all your stuff down below. Thank you so much for coming on this episode. We're so excited to have you for Sunrise. Stay tuned for Sunrise. And everyone, go check out Juan. We will see you next time for episode 87.
See
Bye.
ya.